Good afternoon, Hotline.
Well, good afternoon. Is this the world's most famous radio talk show host or most controversial? Which is it?
Well, this would be the former mayor of Oswego I'm talking to, John Sullivan, I assume.
Indeed, indeed.
Thanks to
I'm retired, and I'm sitting here listening to your show.
Well, where are you retired? Up here?
And no, I'm in Albany.
Oh, okay, good.
Please. In Green Island, right across the river.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, Green Island. That's a village, right?
Pardon me?
Is that a village? It's the village of Green Island?
Village of Green Island. It's right along the Hudson River. I got a beautiful view of downtown Troy out my window.
Oh, great, great. What's going on in retirement? You didn't get that congressional seat. I was sorry about that.
Well, que sera, sera.
What happened there? Was the fix in or something? Did Rahm Emanuel put the fix in on that, or how'd that work?
Well, let me put it this way. I think that there had been some discussion before the process began as to who the candidate would be.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, by the time I got on the train, I think it had already left the station.
Yeah. Well, they always talk about the process. Usually the process is just the excuse for not giving it to a deserving person like yourself.
Well, that's why God made primaries. We just didn't get a chance to have one.
Oh, yeah. Republicans didn't either. You saw what happened there, I guess.
I certainly did.
Yeah. So what's your read on it? You don't
talk about it.
Since you're not up here anymore, do you have to toe the Democratic line and say that Mr. Owens will get reelected, or do you have a...
Well, the interesting thing is when you retire, you actually are freer to speak your mind. Although I've still got to be somewhat, I guess, balanced. I've always tried to be balanced, but I'm freer to be me, which is a great feeling.
All right. So now you're freer to be you. Who's winning what?
Well, listen, I wanted to talk to you about Harold Ford. That's why I called.
Oh, well, yeah, we were talking about that earlier. I think he could win that, don't you?
No.
Oh. Tell me why.
I think because he's got to pay his dues and establish his credentials in New York. I think there's enough time in this election cycle.
Like Hillary did?
You remember what I told Hillary when she first evidenced an interest in the Senate race, that I said, Mrs. Clinton, when you get to the point where you understand the difference between Oswego, Owego, Otsego, and Otsego, then go ahead and run. And I said that to her in Watertown. And then almost a year later, she had done her listening tour. She'd been all around. She was a very quick study, determined and very thorough. And she came up to me and she said, John, by the way, Oswego's in Oswego County, Owego's in Tioga County, da-da-da-da-da-da. I said, winked and said, you ready? Harold Ford, and I know we like to drive domestic automobiles in northern New York, but you haven't driven a Ford lately, and I don't think we're about ready to embrace.
Well, he's charming, though, isn't he?
He's a charming Tin Lizzy. But you know what? He's got to do his homework. And when he does, then come back.
Well, but you know how it is in politics. Just like Barack Obama maybe could have waited till he was a little more seasoned, but he saw opportunity in 2008 that might never come along again. This fella sees opportunity. You've got what is perceived in the media as a crippled candidate in Kirsten Gillibrand.
Yeah, I would disagree. I don't think
she is either, but on the other hand, that's, you keep reading all the downstate papers, they still haven't gotten over the Caroline Kennedy thing yet. Well, even the Watertown Times, was criticizing the process that resulted in her selection. The process is the governor gets to pick, and he did.
Well, he did, but I think he made a seasoned judgment. I really don't think Caroline Kennedy was ready, or I think she would have been a square peg in a round hole. Unfortunately, I'm a Kennedy fan from way back, and I absolutely adore and admire the family and everything about it. But that would have been the wrong position for her, and I think she ultimately realized that.
But a little revenge isn't a bad thing, and I'm sure she's not totally... well, in Democratic Party politics, most of the primary votes are going to come out of the metropolitan area, the city. 25% of the Democratic primary votes are going to be from African-American voters. The demographics in a primary tend to favor Harold Ford, don't they?
No, I don't think so, because on the issues, his positions have been, I would say, more moderate or to the right side of the spectrum than the hardcore Democratic electorate in New York City. depends on turnout. And I think in upstate New York, we have a senator in Kirsten Gillibrand. I think we need to support her. I think she has demonstrated her capabilities as a congressperson and as a new New York senator. She's working very hard. I think she deserves a chance. She is the only upstate person,
right,
statewide ticket.
Well, I wrote a nice op-ed piece about her when she got picked.
Uh-huh.
And
I read your blog, Jeff.
Yeah, and well, you should. It's the most. Well, I won't, not the most, but it's one of the better ones. I would hope. I work at it.
And I'm glad you don't engage in any self-promotion. You know, I like you.
Now, what about the governor's race? Andrew Cuomo will run. He will put up with a couple of weeks' worth of grief about running against the first black governor, and then that'll be the end of that, and he'll go on to victory, right? Is that the plan?
I think the jury's still out on that.
I mean, obviously he wants to run. He's raising money. He's getting people lined up for the campaign.
But he would undoubtedly, he'd be a strong candidate. I think he'd be a great governor. But we have a governor. I think we've got to give him the opportunity. I was very impressed by the proposals that he made during his State of the State message, which really go to the core of what is wrong in New York State politics. His proposal to fund campaigns, I think, is an idea whose time has long since come. The old saying in politics is, he who pays the fiddler calls the tune. Well, who's paying the fiddler in New York? The special interests. Who calls the tune? The special interests. Once the people start paying the fiddler, then we can call the tune. It's as basic as that. So
then you wouldn't have all those fundraisers at the Crown Plaza and the hotel would go under.
Oh, they'd find other things to do. They could have lightning seminars, invite you to give a speech.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's everybody says they don't want corruption, but...
Well, I think, Jeff, we can't fundamentally reform our system until we change the way we fund it. I really think that's axiomatic. You've got to look at the way, the money comes in and what influence it presents. And everyone can say, oh, gee, I don't really pay attention to who my donors are. Well, that's just not...
Well, I think reforming government, you're just going to end up like our good friend Sisyphus there.
I've always thought, I think often of your Sisyphus model and pushing the rock uphill, and maybe we are in terms of reforming government, but this is a good rock to push up the hill. So my hat is off to Governor Patterson.
No, I think he's being feisty. I like what he's saying, and I like how he gets down on the legislature and all the other self-serving people down in Albany, including the so-called good government groups that have been living off the trough for so many years, too. So, no, I like what he's saying. But the question is, has the die already been cast and he can't win? I think he could win against Lazio.
I think he can win. The question is he able to adapt himself in the way he needs to be an effective communicator? And I think the jury's out on that yet. I think he's taken some important steps. A little thing like shaving his beard. I think that was critical.
Yeah.
I do think that his disability is a factor in the way people perceive him, and you've always got to remember you don't want to become a caricature on Saturday Night Live. That was fatal to your friend, Governor Palin.
Yeah. Well, she's got a gig on Fox now, so she's all set.
When TSA said that she could see Russia from her house, good night, Sarah Palin, as a serious candidate, don't you think?
I think that hurt, yes.
Yeah.
And probably the characterizations of the governor have not been flattering, but what are you going to do? I mean, I'm surprised because...
he needs to overcome that, and I think he needs to communicate in a way that is effective, and I'm not sure that he's gotten there yet. For example, the State of the State, I would have done it differently. I would have had him do partly a video of his accomplishments and what he's trying to project, rather than standing up as a sighted person would and give a 45-minute talk or half an hour. He needed to change it up a little bit, and he hasn't done that yet. I think if he does, he can resurrect his candidacy.
This other candidate, this Steve Levy guy,